Hi, Geometry. This is the final section of our unit. We're going to cover area of a sector and arc length. This is actually in a different chapter, chapter 11. First of all, arc length. Let's imagine we have a circle, and the circumference is the distance all the way around the circle, kind of like perimeter is for a square or a rectangle. The arc length is part of the circumference. For example, if I started walking here at point A, and I walked around the circle and I stopped here at point B. And if I wanted to know how far I traveled, if I wanted to know that length, that's called the arc length. So,
Attention students, if you are going to stay at
so part of the circumference. For example, on this circle, let's just say our radius is 3 inches. It looks like this angle should be 90. Let's just say it is. So if I wanted to find the circumference, I would take pi and multiply it by 2 times the radius, and I would get 6 pi. That would be all the way around. But I only want to know the length from A to B. And so, as you can see, that's about 90 degrees. That's a fourth of the circle. How do I know it's a fourth? Because I know 90 divided by 360 is a fourth. So a fourth of 6 pi is our arc length. And I'll go ahead and type that in my calculator. 6 times 3.14 times 1/4 is about 4.71. And that'll be in inches. So when you do an arc length, you measure it in inches or centimeters, some type of linear unit. Whereas the arc measure was exactly the angle measure. So this arc measure would have been 90 degrees. Now for the sector area is just part of the area. And so if we look at the sector that's formed by this 90-degree angle again, this area, we want that portion of the area. Well, the area of the whole circle is pi r squared, so pi times 3 squared. 3 squared is 9, so 9 times pi. But we don't want the whole circle, we want just this part formed by the 90 degrees. Again, that's a fourth of the circle, because 90 divided by 360 is a fourth. So we do a fourth times 9 pi. And again, if you type that in your calculator, doing 1/4 times 9 times 3.14, you get about 7.1. And since it's area, we'll say it's inches squared. So for a formula, the arc length is the angle divided by 360 degrees. And that's the angle of the section that you're looking at, times pi times 2r. Now you know circumference, you can also write pi times diameter. That would be okay too. And that's for the arc length. Now for the sector area, it's the same idea. It's angle out of 360 degrees times pi r squared. So it's just a portion of the area. Let's take a look at some examples. On the first example, we have a circle with radius of 5 inches. And the first question is to find the measure of the arc ZY. And so that would be the measure of this arc. So what is the angle formed by this arc? That would be 100 degrees. So we would just write 100 degrees. Remember, it's the same as the central angle. Find the circumference of the circle. Circumference is pi times 2 times the radius. So that would be 10 pi. If you typed that in your calculator, you'd get 31.4 approximately. And that would be in inches. Now it says to find the length of arc ZY. So in order to do that, we need to figure out what fraction of the circumference that's going to be. Remember, the measure was 100, just like the central angle says. So we would do 100 out of 360 degrees times pi times 2r. So if we type that into the calculator, we would do 100 divided by 360 times 3.14 times 2 times 5. We should get about 8.72. And that's in inches. And if you wanted to pause it and try to type it into your own calculator just to make sure that you can get the same thing I do. The area would be pi r squared, so pi times 5 squared. In other words, pi times 25. And that'll be about 78.5. And again, area, so inches squared. Now for part E, it says to find the area of the sector formed by angle ZWY, so that's this angle, and the arc ZY, and that's this minor arc. So we want to find this sector area. So again, that portion of the circle is 100 out of 360 degrees times pi r squared, since we're doing area. We can type that in our calculator, 100 divided by 360 times 3.14 times 5 squared, let's just call that 25. We get about 21.8, and that would be inches squared. Now for the next sector area, we want the area formed by the angle XWY, here's XWY, and the arc XY. So that'll be this sector this time. So to figure out that angle, we need to take 360 and subtract 120 and 100. So 360 minus 220 would be 140. So we take 140 out of 360, since this is 140 degrees, times pi times r squared. So 140 divided by 360 times 3.14 times 25 again, that's about 30.5 inches squared. And then you'll notice just below this there are some checkpoints for you to do, and we'll go over them tomorrow. Have a good evening.